So it is, let me pull up my agenda real quick. All right, it is 4:32, and I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And I will share my screen, and I do, just like last time, I have, since it never works just to have one, I have multiple flags. So if those are coming up, we'll go ahead and start the meeting with a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So thanks for bearing with us. I've just got to get my, like I said, get my bearings back again for the Zoom. Okay. So I have a hard stop at about 5:55. That's why I'm dressed like this, because I have to be somewhere by 6:30. I didn't have this meeting on our calendar, so as you know, it's not, I was wrong by not putting it on the calendar. So we have a 6:30, so I'm going to be running out. So hopefully we can get through everything to that point. I'd like to welcome our guests. I'd also like to welcome Eric, who's with us. And I think we'll be working Eric into a spot on the committee as soon as we can. He's got as we learned last time, he's got a lot of background knowledge. Good, we got more people popping in. Welcome, Edith. And again, the guests who are here, we will go through, we have some other business, and then we're assuming that you're here to look at some of the projects that we have. And when that time comes, that we'll discuss those, and you'll have your time to ask us any questions or offer or answer any questions that we might have as we discuss them. So I'd like to make a motion. I'm going to skip again. I have not had a chance to meet with Shauna and others about how we're going to restructure the committee going forward. So I'm going to hold off on item D right now on the agenda. On to item E, I'd like to, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from June 3rd, 2021?
So
I'll
moved.
move to approve.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. That takes us to the first privilege of the floor. Do we have any guests that would like to speak at this point? Will not be later on the program with us. All right, I do not see, I don't see Shauna here yet, so we don't have a report from the development office. We do not have any reports from the town board. And I don't believe we have any referrals from the CIC that we need to discuss at this point. Okay, so if I am mistaken, feel free to jump in at any time and correct me. And I also don't believe we have anything from the ordinance committee right now. All right, that takes us to the referrals from the PRC. So we're going to start with CPN 21-055, which is Marathon Engineering, representing and Lucas Bushin, and the property is 5481 Rochester Point Drive. So I'm hoping that we have that right here and we are ready to go. So I believe, Sarah Linda, you had those. So if you want to go ahead and start and just direct me and tell me what you would like me to do and what you would like me to bring up.
Why don't we start with the Encore map of it, and then also after that, then the photographs.
Okay. So here's the property right here, 5481.
Okay, can you zoom out a little bit just for context?
You want me to zoom out?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
There we go. How's that?
Good. Okay. So this is at just across the creek from Ononda Park, Point Rochester. There is a dead end road there, Point Rochester Drive, with about 8 or 10 buildings on it. And this is the one of the two that are at the far end. Its neighbor at 5475 there abuts the creek. And this property is immediately to the south. So it has the full view towards the south as well as across the lake. It is a pretty small parcel, as most of the ones, well, at least the one immediately to the north of it is, and there are a couple of other pretty small ones on this drive also. And then let's take a look at the photographs.
Yeah. 055. Should be down a little bit. If you guys see it before I see it, I was scrolling through these and having them up here, but I believe it's a little further down. There we go.
There it is.
Sorry for the delay. My internet is kind of deciding to take the summer off. So it's not really keeping up with the times.
Okay,
Here we go.
So here it is. This is looking at the existing house from the drive, so looking towards the southeast. It's a little too bright to get a very good resolution picture, but the house has been added to a number of times. It's a 2-story house. The section on the left there that has, I believe, is the original house, and then it's been added to with the center section, the part on the right. The original house is a 19th century cottage. So let's go down to the next photograph. It's all the same document. So yeah,
Yep,
this is looking at it from the south. So from the opposite side of where we just were, you can see it's, so the part on the right is the older section. The part on the left is the newer section. It's got sleeping porches on the upper level, which is characteristic of some of these 19th century cottages. And then keep going with the photographs. This is the west side of the building looking back towards it. So there's a lot of glass on the lower level. And then there's one more picture, I think. This is from the driveway looking back towards just the other direction from the last picture. So you can see there are a lot of small trees on the parcel, a lot of landscaping around it. Okay, so let's go back to the draft recommendations now, or the report. The applicant is seeking site plan approval to demolish the existing house and to replace it with a new house within the same footprint. The new home will be raised to a higher elevation for compliance with the floodplain regulations. And I'm guessing this is part of the motivation for the project. A section of the existing home dates back to 1885, according to the town assessment records, and then a portion of it is later additions. There are a number of nonconformities with the existing property, particularly the minimum lot size, which is about 12,500, while 20,000 is required. Minimum lot width, there's a portion of the site that goes down very narrow to 12 feet, and 125 is required. Maximum building coverage is 15% required, and the existing situation is 19.9%. And in terms of maximum lot coverage, including pavement and so on, the requirement is 25%, and the existing condition is 30.7%. And then rear setback is 24%, while 30% is required. However, all of these nonconformities are either being maintained or being improved. And the town's policy is that if you're not making any nonconformities worse, it's okay. A variance is not required, or that's kind of an abbreviated, more or less automatic continuation of these nonconformities. The project does include removal of an existing asphalt driveway and replacement with a smaller driveway. So the lot coverage nonconformity actually is getting better. It's going from about 31% down to 30.7. So almost the same, but a tiny improvement. The site plan does propose a rain garden to accommodate the roof drainage on the site, which is a good thing, given that there's not a whole lot of ground there to absorb runoff. The project entails the removal and replacement of the small trees and shrubs within the work area. There aren't really any large trees on the site, although it seems to be a wooded site, but the trees actually are on the adjacent properties, but they're going to be unaffected by the projects. And the plan includes a fairly generous landscaping program surrounding the house. Since the new first floor will be a couple of feet higher than the existing first floor, to sort of soften the jarring adjustment for getting into the house, they are going to be bringing in a fair amount of fill for the immediate area around the house. But there's a lot of landscaping proposed to kind of make that transition. And there's an existing septic system and domestic water system which will remain in use. Those are part of the existing. So environmental concerns, I don't see any particular concerns, despite the fact that this is a small lot and below the town's minimum size and above the building and lot coverage requirements. The proposed redevelopment, as I said, adheres to the town's policy of allowing nonconformities to remain as long as they are not increased. And the project does conform with the town's shoreline guidelines. So I see no reason for a recommendation. We could just say, okay.
All right, so thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions? And I neglected to ask this at the beginning, and I apologize for that. Do we have any representatives here, guests who are representing this project?
Yeah, Lucas Bushin from Marathon Engineering is here, and the project architect, Trevor Harrison, is also on the line from HBT Architects.
Okay.
If there's any questions.
Anybody have any questions for these two gentlemen? Any questions or comments from us for either of you? It looks pretty straightforward.
Nothing on our end, thank you.
Okay. I would, we do appreciate, there is a little bit less, reducing the driveway and other things, which is appreciated, and I appreciate keeping it within that footprint. One question I have, do we want to, is this something that, Sarah Linda, with your looking at the property, is this something that we want to document with any pictures, considering the nature of the product, the age of the original structure, or would it be worth documenting before it's taken down?
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. I didn't put it in the report, but yes, the local history team and the town historian are definitely going to be interested in documenting the building through photographs and any other historical information that the owner might be willing to share with us prior to demolition. So we will definitely be in touch with the owner about that.
Okay.
And Sarah Linda, if you or any of the committee wants to reach out to me on that, I did do quite a bit of documentation of existing, the building inside and out. So I can provide some of that as well. I actually probably have more than the owner does. So.
Oh, okay, great.
That would be great. And our historian is part of the group. Lee Pergasell is our town historian, and he is in the meeting. So, I'd encourage you two to connect so we can store the information and document. But we appreciate you doing that, and
Absolutely.
To keep the structure and keep that. All right. Anybody have any other comments? Okay, perfect. Can I have a motion to? We don't have any recommendations, but can I have a motion to move forward with this project with no recommendations from the ECB?
I'll make
I think
motion.
Edith gave a so moved. I saw her
Okay.
lips move. Pat, is that a second?
Yes, please.
Okay, we'll give Edith credit because she's muted. There you
There
go.
we go.
I'm okay.
So, okay, all in favor?
I'm admonishing the
Oh.
dog.
Oh, the joys of Zoom. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Okay, thank you two for joining us. Do you have any other projects Or you're just for this one?
That's
I'm here just for that one.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you. And thanks for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, the next one is CPN 21-056. And this is the project on Rochester Road, BME Associates and James Credicos.
Yeah, and I took a stab at this one with Sarah Linda's help.
Okay.
I don't think we need to pull up an encore image of this. We've all driven past this area between Tom Walls and the Monroe Muffler place, but maybe pull up the renderings at the bottom of the folder. You know, some
Yep. Let me.
what's proposed.
56. Tell me if I've gone past it.
It'd be nice if these were in numerical order. I always have a rough
Yeah.
through.
Shauna promised me she'd fix that and everything's going to be easy to find from here on out. She said we'll never have any issues finding things again. Oh,
Did I say that?
I thought you did. Maybe I misunderstood.
Right.
Do you want the renderings or do you want the picture? I'm sorry, Gary.
Renderings, if you're still there, be there.
The rendering should, the 621 right
Yeah,
there,
there-
621, 21.
Okay, there's our newest one.
Yeah. Flipped on its side.
There we go.
Okay. All right, so this is an application for a new two-story, 8,000 square foot building, 6,000 square foot footprint, which is a commercial building. The building is planned to include 1,500 square feet of commercial office space, 4,500 square feet of retail space, and 2,000 square feet for a tasting room. And the renderings, kind of show it's going to be a distillery, I guess, and the ski and skateboard shop on Main Street is moving uptown apparently. So vodka and skateboards, what could possibly go wrong with that?
Gary, if I may, I just, this plan has changed slightly and we received new plans actually today. So I
Right.
wasn't able to get you an updated site plan. It really hasn't changed much at all and the renderings haven't. I just don't want to misrepresent that Full Send is going to be moving. We don't know that for sure.
Okay, we won't put that in the minutes.
Yeah, and also the footprint is changing slightly. It's going to be a little bit smaller.
Okay.
And the variances, they're only asking for 2 instead of 3.
Okay.
Front
Okay.
setback and rear setback.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they originally requested variances for the open space as well as the front and rear setback. And I thought also reduction in calculated parking space needs, but we'll talk a little more about that hopefully. So, yeah, the front space back setback requirement is 150 feet and proposal shows 51 feet. Rear setback is 40 feet, required 40 feet. They propose 33 feet. And yeah, communicating with Shauna earlier, it sounds like the open space restrictions don't apply because this is not going to be a multi-use overlay project. Is that?
That's correct. So although the district is there, you have to actually apply to be, part of it.
Yeah.
So they are coming in under the just normal CC zoning.
I see. Okay. All right.
Yes, this isn't anything that would come to the board to the town board either to look at it because
Right. That would push, the MUO would push
would
it
have sent it
to,
our way.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that was optional. So, based on the square footage and the usage, the applicant calculated the required parking spaces to be 78 and reduced this number to 74, which includes 4 accessible parking slots. Subsequently, it appears, I saw the last letter to the ZBA that they had decreased the parking request to 67 slots. So this is a small lot that poses challenges for retention of open space, but The original plans for a single-story structure with 150-foot setback was changed to 2 stories closer to the road to reduce the building footprint and allow driveway and parking in the rear. Construction site collects waters from all the adjacent developments, and proposed measures to address this include installation of storm sewers, open swales, bioretention areas, and a proposed underground stormwater detention system, which I had not heard of. Actually, there's a picture, the last photo in the folder there is a representation of what these detention units look like, if people aren't familiar with them.
Yeah. They're fairly common in construction of malls, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, with these big chambers that hold buku stormwater.
Yeah.
Okay, so environmental concerns, there are no woodlands, wetlands, or endangered species impacted by this project. The hydrologic concerns appear to be addressed, and mitigation measures are well detailed. 65% of the site will have impervious covering. Although the front and rear setbacks fall short of current code, the developer notes compliance with those put forth in the proposed form-based code. Moving to a 2-story help reduce the lot coverage, as I mentioned, and increase open space. But the parking space coverage seems excessive based on other community standards, and there's no reference given by the applicant for the calculations, which are noted on page 2 of the site plan. If you look at the city of Canandaigua and their conversion of square footage of the structure to number of slots needed, it's almost half of what they're asking for, which I thought was interesting. So I wonder where they came up with that. So recommendations I put down, and these are obviously open to discussion. The applicant presents a detailed project design which addresses drainage concerns and embraces aspects of the form-based code, which is proposed but currently not approved for implementation. The setback variances are consistent with current neighboring properties and consistent with setbacks seen in the form-based code. The original variance request for decrease in open space requirement is related to a large number of parking spaces, but as we just heard, it's not an issue as far as the need for a variance with the open space. But I still think, the amount of parking spaces should still be justified by the applicant. Also, according to our code, any off-street parking with at least 20 off-street parking spaces shall designate a minimum of 10% of those spaces reserved for handicap. So accessible parking spaces need to be increased from what they originally stated. I think they stated 3 or 4.
So you said they're at 60?
Yeah.
So
they would need 6 instead of.
Okay.
I believe they're at 64 spaces right now as it currently stands.
Okay, it needs 6.4 spaces. The ECB suggests that consideration beginning the use of permeable ground cover in the parking lot or the patio, outdoor dining, tasting areas. And finally, the form-based code speaks to supporting a connected environment for bicyclists. There's a lot of reference to this. Actually, a lot about bicycle parking, not so much about bicycle travel. The concrete sidewalk conceivably could become a future shared use path, like you see in Europe and some cities here, where there's space for pedestrians and bicycle traffic. But that would require a wider walkway. That's certainly not possible, I don't think, with what they're proposing here, where the paving goes right to the sidewalk. But anyhow, I'm sure such a bicycle path would be a ways off. But 332 is not a bike friendly place to travel. Shauna, anything else you want to add?
There we go. Yeah, we talk a lot, or you talked a lot and mentioned the form-based code, which is still in draft form, but it is going before the town board and at the July 19th meeting, as well as the planning board for their comments. And this is really a great project, kind of, although again, because it isn't passed, we can't apply the regs. It really meets a lot of the intent of the form-based code. And I just think it's really exciting, especially to see the facade changes that, we're not used to. And I think it could really be a good kind of kickoff for that area. So.
Yeah, definitely. I like to see that they've jumped in to those requirements and they're trying to meet those.
They really have. And I was looking back, they came in for sketch plan before I started, and they've really stepped it up compared to what the sketch plan looked like.
A lot of work was done. Did you find anywhere any other discussion of the parking space calculation? It's a lot of asphalt that's going to be laid.
It is, right, it is. And I didn't find anything in the file or the minutes. So it's definitely something we can talk to them about at planning board. I will be sure that we have that discussion.
Sure.
Yeah, I would encourage that. And even if would they need ZBA approval for that, for the to be able to reduce that?
Well, if they, they'll be going to ZBA. When is the ZBA? The 20th? No, it's very fluid. I mean, it's really based on the planning board's recommendation. So
I know we've had other discussions about trying to reduce the number of parking spaces that we have, especially looking at all these buildings with maybe half of the parking lot that's actually used and gets taken advantage of. So any reduction that they could come up with, I think would be greatly appreciated.
I agree. And I'll be sure that we have that discussion. Yeah.
I have one comment on the parking, and it relates to the rendering. That was the first thing that we saw. The building is very striking in the rendering, but I think it's a little bit misleading because the rendering suggests that there's no parking in front of the building. And in fact, there's a whole row of parking spaces in front of the building. So something tells me the rendering was done before the site plan was actually settled, or the site plan changed afterwards. I don't know. But am I right in thinking that the form-based code concept, part of the idea is not to have parking in front of the building, but rather to have the building fairly close to the sidewalk?
Right. That is the intent with the form-based code, to push it as far up as you can.
Right.
Right.
So I would suggest that they not push this rendering, either that they be asked to modify the rendering to actually show the cars the way it is on the site plan, or that they not use this rendering, because it really creates an impression that's not right, at least not consistent with their.
How many slots are there up front? Is it a handful or is it a lot?
No, the whole front is.
This row. I don't know if you guys can see it, but this row right here looks like.
Okay, so. Yeah, a dozen slots.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe that's where they could reduce if they're willing to do that.
Yeah, if they could move those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it 17? Is that what I see? 17.
Maybe, yeah, 17, because there's the, I think I counted the accessible block right there.
Right. I mean, if they were amenable to moving that would be fantastic. I'm just wondering if it's an access issue, because they're going to be coming from the, not the Jiffy Lube, the
Monroe Muffler.
Yeah. But I'm not sure.
Huh.
We'll talk about it. I love that idea.
What is the deal with access? Right now, there is no curb cut, and they have use of the curb cut that goes to Monroe Muffler, and now this is going to include creating a new curb cut. But are they going to be abandoning the old one, or what? How I wasn't too clear on that.
I think isn't there a curb cut there now?
There's a curb cut, yeah, where the
Yeah.
cursor is over here on the left, but I don't think there is a curb cut in the place that is closest to the railroad tracks. So that's going to be a new one. Yeah, it says,
If it's proposed, yes.
so are they abandoning the other one?
The one by Monroe Muffler.
Yes.
I can't, I keep trying to zoom in, Jared, like this is actually my screen.
Oh, here, there you go. Just
Can you
yell at
zoom
me.
in
Doesn't
to
hurt my
the-
feelings.
Yeah, I think that they are, I'm not sure if they're keeping both. I would say no, that's gonna be the new access point.
Okay, any other questions on that? Sarah Linda, do you want me to zoom in anymore?
Well, I can read it, but I don't really understand what's going on because it looks as if there are a couple of parking spaces there, but they block off any access. So, you know, and then they're saying saw cut the asphalt. I just don't understand whether this is a site now with one curb cut or with two curb cuts.
I'm under the
Well,
impression that it's one new, there's an existing that will be abandoned and the new curb cut is up.
yeah, like
the
the
door.
one right here, correct?
Yeah, that's new. And they will abandon the Monroe Muffler.
Okay, yeah, that's what it suggests. I just wanted
Yeah.
to confirm that.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments on this?
I took some photos, but I don't think they'll add to the discussion.
Okay.
Nice picture of the train cars. You're in it.
Oh, I think I just closed out all of our cheat sheets on accident. Okay. So any other questions for Gary or any other comments on the project, suggestions that anybody would like to make? All right, I'd like to thank Gary for doing that. That's one of the points that I want to discuss later on too, is sharing the wealth of the site reviews. But appreciate you doing that, stepping up and doing it. Considering the one I was going to do got taken away, that we didn't have to do it. So I guess I lucked out on that one. All right, so can I get a motion to approve the recommendations as outlined?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, so let's jump on to the next one. And this is, bring it up, So this is 21-057 for the property at 3551 County Road 16. And it's the professional engineering group and it's Scott Harder. So let me bring this one up. Maybe I can close that one out. Okay, let me know when you're ready. Oh, I had it here. There we go. There's the property, Sarah Linda, right there.
Okay. And can you zoom out here so we can see
Yep.
5 or 6 houses on either side? So this is the section of Westlake Road that is immediately south of the yacht club, between the yacht club and Butler Road.
There we go.
Keep going out there. Keep zooming out so we can sort of see that. So this is one of the few parts of Westlake Road where the lakefront lots are a separate house. And they are typically very small lots. If you're going to the south from here, they're even smaller than this. But this is a pretty small one, certainly compared to the other one we just looked at, which is also a demolition and replacement of a house. That one was 12,500 square feet. This one is only 62 by 65. So that's more like 4,000 square feet. So let's zoom back in again on the site itself. Okay, so you can see the house occupies a very substantial part of the site, and the rest of the site is made up with the part toward the lake. There are two different decks, one at the ground floor level of the house, and then you go down some steps and there's a second wood deck that is, occupies the whole lakefront. And then the part to the north, the upper corner, the upper right corner of the site is a boathouse. So the only portions of the site that have any lawn are just this relatively small little block on the north, and then the southwest corner, which has got some grass in it. The northwest corner is a carport. So that's where there's enough space there for one car to park. And then their sort of auxiliary parking is down here on the lawn in the southeast corner. But like a lot of these other properties, there is a portion of the county right-of-way there between the road pavement and the house, and that is used for parking essentially. So guest parking and other sorts of things are actually in the right-of-way. So let's go to the photographs.
All right, give me a second on this. I'm going to have to accidentally closed it out. Okay. Let me just pull up the number again so I have it. 57.
There it is. Okay, so this is a one-story house with hip roof. It's a pretty small building, 1,020 square feet, including a carport of 103 square feet. So this is looking at it from across the road, and there's on the right is the small yard area. And the next photograph, I think, is looking from behind the house. This is the upper deck, which is at the level of the first floor of the house. And then on the next photograph, on the right here is the upper deck, and then you can see you go down almost a full level to the lower deck. And then there's also the boathouse, the roof of the boathouse is yet a third deck. And there's a small amount of lawn area here with kind of minimal landscaping. There's some ground cover and some small shrubs. There are no sizable trees on the property at all. And then the last picture is the side yard on the south side of the house. I believe, yeah. So there's some asphalt there for a auxiliary parking space and a little bit of lawn, and that's it. So let's take a look at the site plan, which the existing and proposed. So this first page is the existing site plan. There are two different versions of it, one with dimensions and one with notes on it, but you can see the existing single-story house. And there's the carport out in front, and then the upper and lower decks and the boathouse. And then go down to page 2. That's the proposed. So the changes are, they're going to eliminate the upper deck and also eliminate the carport. And the house is going to be larger. It's going to be built out into the area where the upper deck is now. So let's see, here are the key points. Applicant is seeking site plan approval to demolish and replace an existing single-family home on a small lot. The site is in the section of lakefront on County Road 16 between the Yacht Club and Butler Road, generally characterized by very narrow lots with minimal yards and parking in the county right-of-way. The existing condition includes a single-story house of 1,020 square feet with a carport of 103 square feet, a driveway, 2 levels of wood deck, various other site structures, and a boathouse for a total lot coverage of 2,959 square feet, 65%. So this is a little bit comparable to some of those projects that we looked at over on the east side of the lake, Fallbrook Park and some of the other roads over there where you have lot coverage over 50%. The carport and a corner of the house extend into the county road right of way. This and the other nonconformities such as lot area and setbacks are not itemized in the application, but this is like the other one we just discussed in that the nonconformities will either remain the same or be reduced. The proposed house is 2 stories with a footprint of 1,514 square feet. The upper deck and the carport will be removed, and other modifications to the site structures will result in a total lot coverage of 2,908 for a small reduction from 65% to 64%. The encroachments into the right-of-way will be eliminated and the height will remain in compliance under 25 feet. The site has a few trees along the north and south borders, possibly on adjacent properties. These will remain in place, supplemented by 3 new small trees and some container shrubs at the perimeter. The existing site has space for 1 car in the carport and space for an additional car on the south side. The proposed plan will have space for 1 car within the structure, so it does have an enclosed garage. And the side yard parking on the south side will remain unchanged. And a dry well is proposed to accommodate roof drainage for the new house. Environmental concerns. While the project complies with the town's current policy of honoring prior nonconformities on lot size, coverage, and setbacks, ECB questions whether this policy is appropriate for cases which will result in substantial increases in living space and occupancy through the addition of a 2nd floor. Now, this is something that is really a matter for the ordinance committee and maybe the town board to consider. It just, we're starting to see a lot of these demolition and replacement of existing cottages and or existing homes, and dealing quite a bit with non-conforming situations where we're asked to approve something because it's not any worse than what was there before. But the matter of how many stories it is and how many bedrooms doesn't really come into play there. And this is a fairly extreme example of a situation which is seriously non-conforming and which really is being made more non-conforming because of the fact that the building is the number of people who can be accommodated there is going up. It's going to mean that there are going to be more cars in all likelihood. So, I don't know. It just, to my mind, it just suggested that maybe there should be a second look by the ordinance committee about whether this policy of maintaining nonconformities ought to be, reconsidered in light of the fact that it doesn't really address the changes that come about when you add a 2nd floor to an existing building. So my draft recommendation is no recommendation on the application, but ECB suggests the ordinance committee and planning board review the town's policy on nonconformities concerning the addition of upper levels of living space on a non-conforming parcel. In this and other recent applications, this policy is resulting in an undesirable increase in the density of development on small non-conforming lots. So, that's my own personal feeling on this. The other ECB members may have other ideas on whether this is a particularly difficult one, or this is an example that maybe we should ask people to look at and reconsider the policy.
Well, this has definitely been an issue before. And I think it would be worth having a discussion. I can have a discussion with Gary to recommend that the ordinance committee at least talk about it and see, because when it does come down to it, everything that you do with a home and zone, everything you do with a home doesn't come down to necessarily your square footage. It comes down to the number of bedrooms that you have and the impact that's going to have on your septic, on everything else. I would assume that they would need that done, a look to make sure that they were not overloading their system. But I think it's definitely something that's worth looking at, because what we don't want is suddenly you have all these, these 2-story houses rolling right along that are just under the height requirements and doubling up the density there. I don't know how anybody else feels, or with those, based on what Sarah Linda shared.
This is a perfect example for them to take a look at that. I think it would be important to do that.
I agree as well.
Once a precedent is set, we worry that everyone's going to refer to this project when they want to throw another floor onto a
Yeah.
small foot.
Yes.
So I think I
Difficulty because the precedent already has been set with some other ones that are similar to this, but sooner or later, it's hard to change once a precedent is set, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't give it a try. And
Right.
Yes.
They have a septic system, or is this?
Is it septic or sewer? I mean,
this is public sewer
It's sewer, okay.
Sewer.
and water.
Hard to squeeze a leach field in there.
Yeah, yeah. Really no spot unless it's a floating leach field, which we don't recommend.
I concur with Sarah Linda's assessment. I think we're seeing a tidal wave of people who want to acquire a property and then twist and bend in whichever way they can to shoehorn in.
All right, so anybody else with any comments on that? So we do.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's probably not going to happen, but just in those small lots, I mean, how do we apply any kind of screening for the folks on the lake? I mean, that's not going to come into play with this for a landscaping plan or anything.
Right, but it doesn't, like with anything, we can try to make a difference going forward. It's not going to change this one, but at least if it's on the radar and if it's something, we can put that, whether it's ordinance, if they're willing to take that next step and tighten up the restrictions on non-conformities and base it not just on your lot coverage, but also your square footage. That might be something that's that they'd be willing to take on. And I think it's worth it to recommend to them so we don't keep having situations like this. All right, any other discussion on this? All right. So it looks like the main recommendation with this project, no specific recommendation is probably going to have an impact on it, but to have the ordinance committee look going forward and try to find, I would say, ordinance committee and the town attorney going forward to see what we can do to address the second stories and the drastic increase in square footage. I think that's the big recommendation going forward. All right, so if I can have a motion to accept these, this write-up and the recommendation.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Motion carries and recommendations as outlined will be submitted. All right, the last one is 2160, which is 4351 Titchener Point Drive. which is a property that I think a lot of us are familiar with. It's been a point of discussion for quite a while, so let me close some of these down. And there we go. All right, so there we are right there, Sarah Linda.
Okay, this is the property formerly owned by the Kellogg's, formerly under discussion for a possible town park, but instead it has been sold privately. And the proposal, if you zoom in there, so we can see the driveway.
Yeah.
There is a common drive, the Stitchner Point Drive, that has two curb cuts, one on this property and one 3 or 4 parcels up, and they all have an easement. You know, all the adjacent properties have rights of way across the full length of Titchener Point Drive. The new owners of 4351 are proposing to realign the southern section of that driveway. They don't really explain why or what their intent is for the parcel as a whole. There are 2 existing cottages on it as well as a boathouse. And then there's a relatively new house immediately to the north, 4341. So let's take a look at the site plan. You see the tennis court here, which is part of the Kellogg property. Yep. And the realigned driveway is going to be shifting to the north, and it's going to cut right through that tennis court. So what the result of it is going to be that it will provide some additional, it'll provide more flexibility for the development of the parcel at 4351, which we don't know what that development will be, but one reasonable guess is it might be a single substantial home that will in fact have its own separate curb cut. So let's take a look at the site plan. And
looking for 4351, it's number 60. So you want the site plan first?
Yeah, let's take a look at the site plan and then the photos.
Assuming I can find it. I think I'm past it. If I see it, yell at me.
There it is.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the existing
there.
Existing conditions. You can see the cottages and the boathouse and the tennis court and the alignment of the gravel asphalt driveway. And then you go down to the next sheet is the proposed realigned driveway, which starts at the same curb cut, but just makes a sharper curve around to the north, goes right through the tennis court. And as I said, allows more space to the south for redevelopment of the parcel and for a completely separate driveway, so that the new development, whatever it is on this parcel, would have its own driveway and would not be part of the common Titchener Point Drive. So now let's take a look at the photographs. This is what it looks like from Westlake Road. I guess I can't remember if it's gravel or paved, but and then the next one is a little farther down. That's looking towards the tennis court. There are some substantial trees here. There are these Crimson King maples and some other large trees, lots of large trees on the off to the right and down toward the lake. And then the next photo is looking back toward Westlake Road. So you've got a nice green lawn there. Yeah, it is a gravel drive. Mm-hmm. And then the last photo is looking across the tennis court towards that's the house immediately to the north, which will be the first one on the drive. And these red lines across the tennis court are the That's the profile of the new roadway. So here's the draft report. The key points are: applicant is seeking site plan approval to realign an existing driveway which serves multiple properties on Titchener Point Drive. The new alignment passes through an existing tennis court, which will be removed. The tennis court pavement and the pavement of the driveway section to be abandoned will be returned to lawn. No tree removals are required. The work area is generally level. The 3.84 acre parcel also includes 2 cottages and a boathouse. The asphalt removal at the tennis court is greater than the amount of new asphalt in the realigned driveway. So the overall lot coverage is reduced from 11% to 8.7%. So all in compliance. ECB recommends the reduction in the lot coverage, or ECB commends the reduction in lot coverage on a large lakefront parcel. And the site plan does make note that the existing and the proposed driveways pass through an area which is identified on the site plan as, quote, park area, unquote, and it references a deed agreement, I think from a long time ago, and there isn't really any explanation for what that means. The recommendation is that the applicant provide a copy and explanation of this agreement to the town and a confirmation that the proposed project is in compliance. Maybe Shauna can address that a little further. I think it's perhaps not something that the town has much of any control over, but I think it would be useful to at least ask the applicants to elaborate on what that, give some background on that.
Right. Thank you, Sarah Linda. We do have a copy of that. And not only do we have it for this application, but we have it for the past town's look at acquiring this property. And no, we can't, there's nothing that we can do to enforce it is a deed restriction for the multiple parcels down there. And we are not in the place to enforce deed restrictions. So noted that we do have it, and actually I think it should be uploaded here too as well. If not, I have it in my office.
Yeah, and that dates back quite a bit. That was a big discussion that came up a lot when we were looking at the property for a park.
Right.
It's the private agreement entered in between the property owners. So whoever purchases it will still have to, basically the agreement, they have to agree to whatever the other deed holders as part of that have agreed to.
Right.
Well, presumably they will need to get the permission of the other parcel owners on Titchener Point Drive in order to do this realignment, because all of those people presumably have a right of way on this driveway. So probably at the same time, they're going to get a okay for whatever disposition of that parkland is going to happen.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is it's all in the hands of the other property owners. There isn't really anything that the town can do.
No, and if it's on there, I want to say we're going back to the 20s. Oh, sorry. We're going back to the 20s with that whole incorporation and that whole restriction originally.
Right. Yeah, that was the time that it was subdivided into some small parcels.
Yeah.
And we mentioned on the Point Rochester one that documentation of historic properties, and the same would be true of this one if those cottages on the Kellogg property are proposed for demolition, but that's down the road.
Right. I would definitely make a point of that we make sure that we do make a point that they're cataloged.
Yes.
Okay, any other discussion on this parcel and on the project? Any other questions? All right, can I have a motion to accept with the understanding that that we don't have any, that the town does not have any say over the deed restrictions that currently exist, that those are private agreements between the property owners.
Also move.
Was that a so moved?
Yes.
Okay, can I get a second?
Could I just suggest, I mean, do we want to just eliminate that from the recommendation and revise it to say no recommendation?
Sure. Do you want to strike that then?
That might be simpler.
Yeah, I think, okay, I agree. So strike the recommendations and so remove any reference to any recommendations for the project. All right, so now can I get a motion to accept this report as amended?
So moved.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Okay, now the last one, the one that I
To
had,
accept the report as amended.
what's that? Oh, I think Leaf was talking to somebody else. The last one, the one that I had on Hickox Road, that one, all I'm going to say with that is we don't have any comment to make, as we're still trying to figure out why that was included in the, why that came to us. It's just a straightforward single family parcel. So I think we just go forward with no comment. I don't know that we need a vote on that, no comment. So we'll proceed with that as if we don't have to worry about it. All right, moving on to old business. I'd like to thank Pat for her article that showed up in there. I'm gonna have to step up my game for the next one for my waste and recycling article. So I got to start on that right away. So I have August. We still have September and October that are open. If there are any volunteers for September.
Need some thinking and some ideas on those.
Yeah. We really need, yeah, we need to get them a month ahead. So next meeting, we should have somebody ready to step up for September. Anybody have any article thing that they're dying to write about?
Well, September and October are the blue-green algae months. And last year we did an article, you know, sort of a basics of blue-green algae. If we don't have any other ideas, maybe the Watershed Association could provide a update on, you know, water quality, state of the lake sort of thing. Probably September would be better than August, because if we're going to have blue-green algae, it's more likely to, you know, we won't have much of any news the 1st of August, but we might have some news 1st of September.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sidebar that they have found some in the lake last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's been a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. So super early.
Yeah, it has been hot though.
Hopefully some
has.
of the cooler temperatures save us. We can kind of get cooled down a little bit. All right, so Kim, you want to put that down for September, looking at blue-green algae and lake quality report?
I have done it.
Perfect, thank you. All right, any thoughts for October? Or it looks like maybe October we'll talk about in August? And if we need to, we can always throw something about recycling your pumpkins. Don't throw out your pumpkins, recycle them.
That's true.
Yeah, we could
That's true.
we could always throw something about that. Why don't we just throw that one right now? I'm not going to necessarily volunteer, but I might have to. But let's put down
or
pumpkins.
anything else that falls into like fall, like leaves and
Yeah.
pumpkins and corn, what have you.
Yeah, any of that stuff. And we could even,
Yeah.
who knows? I'm sure there are going to be some Christmas trees up by then. So we can even throw something out there for Christmas, recycling your Christmas trees and mulching those up and all that.
Yeah, something to look forward to.
Yeah, so all right. All right, so the summer exhibit is up for the trash and recycling. It's not quite as creative as what Edith put up there, but it has a yes and a no, and it also has the mascot hidden in there. So if you're walking through, I'd recommend to make sure you can find the mascot.
I will go look.
You know, kind of hiding in there. And if I only did trash and recycling. So I could also, Caitlin has a ton of information. So I can take the fall one for composting as well, since we didn't want to muddy the waters with trash and recycling, and then also have information on composting. So why don't, if anybody is opposed or really wants to do a fall display case, step up. Otherwise, I will do composting.
Sounds very organic.
Okay, and by
Sounds excellent. Yes,
all right,
very
and
good.
by I mean I will be getting information from Caitlin, and I will be putting that in there. That's what I mean when I say I. I have to, full disclosure. All right, we have a few minutes left. So we've got about 13 minutes before I've got to jump off. Kim, do you want to do a quick touch on the biodiversity activity that you shared?
Certainly. One second.
I will stop sharing my screen so you can share.
All right. Screen sharing. Go. Woo, got it.
Perfect.
All righty. If I can move it over, maybe. It's kind of weird. One second. Stop share. Guess I should move it in the center first before I share. I'm new to this.
It messes everything up when you share. It changes
Yeah, it
all the
does.
controls.
There we go. What I was suggesting was that we could maybe do a BioBlitz activity in the town of Canandaigua. It could cover our town parks as well as private property. And a BioBlitz, let's see. I can send out a link to this. This is a nice page by the National Geographic Society, and it kind of highlights what it is. Basically, it's getting people out in nature, in your parks, or even their backyard, and just identifying plants, animals, birds, fish, whatever. And so it really kind of gives us an idea of what kind of life is in our town. And I've taken part in 2 BioBlitz activities already this year. I led walks as part of the Cummings Nature Center BioBlitz, and then I just did one for the, I took part in, let me get that page, the Finger Lakes Land Trust. They had a weekend where if you went to one of their properties, one of their areas, and just went through and did the BioBlitz, you know, what could you see? You basically go through iNaturalist, and this is, oh, I didn't do that. I'll show you some of the observations I made there. Let me go down. So like these ones are all from Wesley Hill Preserve. And so you just take pictures, and if you've got a smartphone or whatever, you just use the iNaturalist app, and you take the picture, you make your observation, and it will actually suggest to you. So if you didn't know this was violets, it might suggest to you that it was violets. And then when you make that observation, somebody else will chime in and say, yep, that looks like violets. Or they might say that looks like a particular type of violet. So there's a lot of checking and rechecking with the things that you're seeing. So I just thought it might be a fun thing to do and really kind of open our eyes and maybe as to what life is in our town.
Sounds great.
Yeah,
I think that would be a really nice insert for the newsletter. You know, just to get families thinking and let folks know about this. It looks, I've never heard of it. It's a really, really neat idea.
And we can actually set up a project within iNaturalist, and people can add things right to that project. So it shows up all together. So like it did with, let me go back, projects. So like the land trust, you know, it will say they had 41 people that took part in it. They had 2,300, almost 2,400 observations with over 700 species. So you know, it's kind of almost like a scavenger hunt
Yeah.
in your backyard or a park. I mean, I think it's great to do both the public and the private land for that.
I like the idea of encouraging people to just go
Get
around where they are. And also, I mean, I found I was out walking through our trails where I live with the dogs, and I started looking around thinking, gee, what else can I see other than poison ivy and whatever else? But what else can I find out there? So I think trying to get it in the newsletter for August, getting it in the newsletter could be a great idea, just as a little insert.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd even be willing to write up something to send to the editor, do a little letter to the editor like I've done before, saying, hey, be aware of this. This might be something fun to do in the summertime. What's out?
I like it. But I'm curious, does it have any way that you can enter invasive species?
Oh, certainly. And in fact, there's one sitting right in front of us right there. There's
Garlic mustard.
I went for a walk.
That makes it really awesome.
Yeah. I found some woolly adelgid when I was at Ononda 2 weeks ago. So I did that as an observation here. So, you know, even stuff like that. So there's the woolly adelgid.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, that sort of stuff's good to know as well.
People did it. I mean, they really get a sense of the balance of nature in their own backyard on their own property, which I think is something that's sadly missing. I don't think we have any enthusiasts.
So so I'd like to propose that we go forward and try to include an insert in the newsletter. And if we have an insert coming out in August in the newsletter, I will try to write something up as well and get the messenger to just publish a little, editorial or whatever that they could throw in there, encouraging people to take a look, check. We can put it on the website. We can put it on a link on our UCB web page as well, encouraging people to just get out in the last, in September, August and September, and see what's around them. I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah. Great idea, I think.
Kim, do we just create a special page like you showed us for the town of Canandaigua?
Yeah, I can do that. I could set one up.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
If you could do that, that would be great.
That's great.
And I like the idea of doing it where people can just, it's informal, and people who can, and they can just share and they can put it out there. I could see schools I could see sharing this with Jamie Anderson, who's our, he's like he's earth science, life science, he's got his 3-year-old kid playing with snakes already. That's the kind of guy he is. His son will go out and pick up snakes and just play with them out in the woods. But I could see this taking off and trying to get some, that community school partnership, and just hopefully organic, not to be corny, but kind of let it rise, just let it see what happens with it.
We can also obviously let Lindsay know, and the city, because the summer camps at Ononda are running.
Yeah.
And Outhouse, all the kids
yeah.
are there now.
And I'm sure it gets to the point where they're looking for things to do as well once, after you've been there for a few weeks.
Right.
Yeah, that would be great. So thanks for sharing that, and let's see where we are next month when we come back, and hopefully we'll have it ready to go into the newsletter, and also something ready to go to the messenger.
Sounds good.
All right.
Awesome.
All right. I need to go through. I've already gotten my my 5-minute warning text. So Shauna and I met, and we streamlined the NRI and the PRC checklist. So that should clear up some of this confusion. And we we streamlined that and tried to pull out some indicators and things that would trigger a referral to the ECB. So hopefully looking at that, there'll be some projects that we won't suddenly say, well, why did this come to us? There'll be a definite link to the NRI and to our responsibilities as well. And I am planning, since it's summer, I'm planning on being at the next PRC meeting, so I'll be able to participate in that and see how that goes.
Well, we only have one agenda item on Monday, just so you know. Apparently,
Perfect.
it's the only time we've had one in the history that I can remember.
So I'm gonna get a real distorted vision of what it's like. I mean, like,
Absolutely.
perfect.
I think, yeah. And we're actually just Zooming it because we only have one. So,
okay.
yeah.
All right, I'll touch base with you at the end of the week about
Okay.
that. So
Okay.
I can, don't show up and nobody's there. So I would also, one thing as far as the structure of the ECB, I think it's valuable that we have multiple members doing the site reviews. And again, I'd like to thank Gary for doing that. So as these come through, next month, we're not going to have as many, obviously, but as these things come through, I'd like to set up a rotation. So we might be reaching out to some of you, asking if you'd be willing to do that. So if anybody is not comfortable doing that and just wants to stick with education or outreach or things like that, just let me know. Just, me or Shauna, let us know, and we won't put you on that cycle. But I think it's very valuable for multiple people to be part of that process. I think it really helps the committee. And then the last thing that we need to hit today is our remote meetings. Are people comfortable going back hybrid next month, where we can have the meeting at town hall? And if you want to participate remotely, you can. If you want to get back in person, face to face, you can.
The hybrid meetings, because of, I don't know, connectivity or microphones in the room, the audio often is lacking if you're trying to do it virtually and there's people in the room. I mean, would an alternative be to have just in person every 3 or 4 months and the other time virtual, or are we kind of being mandated to?
Well, the executive order has been lifted as far as a state of emergency. And since we are a board,
Yeah.
we have more restrictions on us than a committee. So if we go forward with that virtual, with that remote option, we do have the flexibility with the hybrid, but if we were to go all hybrid, I'd have to look to see what our participation policy would be,
Yeah.
if we're allowed to do that. And I've got to look and see if we can set our own policy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Is Jared, our zoning and planning still staying Zoom for a while?
Shauna,
Do you think?
is planning going back?
We're doing hybrid for both.
And I think, I think as far as going back to our last town board meeting, we now have better technology. We do have a better microphone system.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's more like a conference mic, where there are mics spaced around the room at the tables, and they pick up and they automatically mute others. If it picks you up, it mutes the other mics.
Yeah.
When you're speaking. So it's better technology than what we've had before.
All right. All right.
Last ordinance meeting had those, and you could hear everyone around the table.
Yeah.
I think the only criticism with the town board was shuffling of papers because the mics do pick up so
Yeah.
much.
So that would probably be me. I shuffle a lot of papers.
Right, you
I
shuffle
move the
a
pen
lot.
around a lot. I do. I'm a paper mover. So let's try hybrid next month and see how it goes. And then we can move forward from that. We can see how it goes, and then we can have a further discussion next month. All right. And then we can at least get it on the calendar to have a spot in the building. All right. Okay. So my 5-minute warning has expired. So if nobody else has anything to bring forward, I appreciate your cooperation with ending right now. But does anybody have anything else? Any other items that need to be brought forward?
I'll send out an email to people to get their thoughts on, where the Gypsy Moss spraying took place, thousands of acres, thousands of dollars spent. The DEC does overflights to assess the defoliation. And I tried to reach out to them to see if they would do a comparison of sprayed and non-sprayed areas. And I never heard back from Rob Cole, the ranger who does that. But, maybe if that's something that we as a board could endorse being done, I think would really add to future planning to see, this really work universally, or, it would maybe as a natural factors and knock the caterpillars down. But I'll send something out to
Yeah.
people.
That
Right.
sounds like a great idea. Okay. All right, it is 5:52. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your
Thank
participation.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right. Have a great
Good
night. Bye.
Mhm.